All right, and we're back now. You know, we're talking about the big lie and digging into what exactly the Republican Party is. What are they so afraid of that would be revealed by an investigation into what happened on January 6th? But as we do that, we have gotten some breaking news here into CNN, and it's on New York State's investigation of the Trump Organization. So let's explain what all of this means now. I want to bring in CNN's Kara Scannell and also our senior legal analyst, Ellie Honig, to guide us through this. Good evening to both of you. So, Kara, give us the latest. What do we know? Walk us through this.
Sure, Don. So we've just learned tonight that the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, has joined a criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office led by Cy Vance. Now, James's office has been conducting a civil investigation into the Trump Organization since 2019, but now their office has turned part of their investigation criminal. Here's what a spokesperson for the AG's office told my colleague Sonia Moji. He said, "We have informed the Trump Organization that our investigation is no longer purely civil in nature. We are now actively investigating the Trump Organization in a criminal capacity along with the Manhattan DA." Now, a source familiar with the investigation tells me that certain members of the New York Attorney General's team that are highly knowledgeable of the Trump Organization that have been digging into this company for some time are now teaming up with the investigators in Vance's office. So what this signifies is that they are bringing this additional knowledge that they have had into the criminal inquiry with Vance. And both offices have been investigating broad ranges of conduct involving the Trump Organization, looking into whether any banks were misled, whether insurance companies were misled, whether their company or any of its executives had committed tax fraud. So this is a broad investigation, and now the DA's office is teaming up with the AG's office, which kind of just adds even more people to work on this investigation, and people who really know a lot about it and who've been digging into it for some time. Now, a lawyer for the Trump Organization declined to comment. They previously called these investigations a witch hunt and have said that Letitia James's office has been politically motivated. Don?
So basically they're combining resources, which I would imagine, Ellie, correct me if I'm wrong, not good news for the Trump Organization. So and tell me if I'm asking the right question here. Explain the significance here. What does it mean that this has moved from a civil to criminal in nature? Am I correct with that question? Is that what's happened?
Yeah, Don. So the first thing this tells me is the New York Attorney General's office saw something. They saw something that has led them to expand and change the nature of their investigation. Because going back to 2019, as Kara said, the New York Attorney General has been in the civil lane, not criminal, while the DA has been in the criminal lane. Now the AG has seen something that's prompted them to make a decision to say, now we need to cross over and join you, DA's office, on the criminal side. That's a big move. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it was. I want to say this about the New York Attorney General's office. I've worked with them on various cases. They don't do every kind of crime. If they have one thing they specialize in above all others, it's complex frauds. That's what they pride themselves on. That's sort of right in their wheelhouse. So, yeah, this is a significant development. It's certainly not good news for the Trump Organization.
Yeah, because when I said that, the reason I asked, the response at Kara read said, "We've informed the Trump Organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature." So that means it's civil in nature, but also criminal. They have just added this criminal capacity on top of it. Who are we talking about here, Ellie, when we talk about the Trump Organization?
Well, the Trump Organization likes to put out this veneer that it's this massive corporation. But really, if you hear people who are part of it testify and talk about it, Michael Cohen has talked about it publicly. He said it's really just a mom and pop shop. It's basically run by Donald Trump, by some of his children, by Eric Trump, and by, this guy, Weisselberg is obviously a key guy. He's the financial gatekeeper. This is a financial case. We know that the DA has been pressuring Weisselberg through his family members. What they appear to be trying to do is to flip Weisselberg, and they believe he has the keys to the kingdom. So it's really a pretty small shop, and they're going to be under an intense spotlight now.
Kara and Ellie with our breaking news. Thank you very much. We'll continue on top of this as we get new information here into CNN. The GOP is trying to stop a bipartisan commission for Don Lemon tonight. You heard Chris laughing. This is Don Lemon tonight. Thank you for joining us. A night when the battle for democracy is raging on two fronts that I need to tell you about. We're going to take you, this is live in Washington, D.C. That's where Republicans are trying to whitewash the Capitol insurrection. They're trying to stop a bipartisan commission from getting to the truth of what happened on one of the darkest days in American history. Don't go to Arizona yet. Because don't send me are you still talking about the insurrection? Yes. And we're going to continue to talk about it. So don't waste your finger energy, don't waste your breath, don't waste your time. It's important. I'm going to keep talking about it. And you know what? You're going to pay attention to it because you know it's wrong. Okay? So save your energy. Now I want to take you to Arizona. That's where a sham audit of ballots in Maricopa County, ballots that have already been counted over and over and over, a county Joe Biden won, is nothing but another effort to push this big lie. Nothing but another effort. And you need to know that it's being fought everywhere in between. Everywhere the big lie flourishes is cultivated by the Republican Party. You're the party of insurrection now, the big lie. Don't say, that's not us. Those people don't represent us. Yes, they do. You let them take over your party. Now you're the party of insurrection. That's who you are, and the party of the big lie. Fake election fraud. The top Republican in the House trying to head off the January 6th commission before it's even begun. You scared, bro? Kevin, what are you afraid of? Huh? Shed some light on the subject. Let people know. You want all the ballots investigated? Or why not investigate what happened on January 6th if you want, as you say, transparency? Sources are telling our very own Jamie Gangel that Kevin McCarthy is worried about what the commission could uncover. Yeah, well, of course. Worried that he'll be called as a witness. Yep, he should be. And alienating everyone. Well, you did it. And now after GOP leadership told members to vote their conscience on the commission, now they're doing a complete 180, urging them to vote no. So you're urging them to vote no. What if their conscience is not no? I thought you said vote your conscience, not no. Okay, so that's your position, huh? That you can't be a Republican and also defend democracy. You can't be a Republican and vote your conscience. I guess conscience goes out of the window when the top Republican in the House declares that he cannot support the legislation. Well, he could. In fact, he would if he cared at all about the truth, if he cared at all about what happened on January 6th, when bloodthirsty Trump supporters, bloodthirsty Trump insurrectionists beat police defending the Capitol, hunted the halls for lawmakers, put up a gallows out. It's just another chapter in the long, sordid saga of Republican hypocrisy and the craven evolution of the minority leader blatantly going along with the prevailing winds. Never mind the truth. Just, oh, wind's blowing that way. That's where I'm going to go. Remember, Kevin McCarthy got into a shouting match on January 6th with then-president, the former guy, who said, well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are. McCarthy, as rioters were trying to break into his office through the windows, firing back, who the F do you think you are talking to? Except he said the actual word. Just 1 week later, McCarthy saying this on the House floor.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding.
Well, whatever happened to that guy? Where is he? Well, this happened. It was a complete about face days later when he was asked if Trump provoked the rioters. Here it is.
I don't believe he provoked if you listen to what he said at the rally.
And then abject surrender to the disgraced, say it with me, twice impeached, one-term former president, when McCarthy made a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring, and later tried to completely rewrite history on the Fox propaganda network, no less, claiming Trump agreed to help put a stop to the insurrection when we know what actually happened.
I engaged in the idea of making sure we could stop what was going on inside the Capitol at that moment in time, and the president said he would help.
That's some good acting right there, right? Look, we know what's going on here. You know, it's obvious. Kevin McCarthy is facing the very real possibility of being subpoenaed and asked a whole lot of questions about what happened on January 6th. And that audience of one in Mar-a-Lago won't like that at all. I would say that this is the GOP's moment of truth, except it's actually their you can't handle the truth moment. Remember Jack Nicholson in the movie A Few Good Men? Well, Republicans can't handle the truth. So the top Republican in the House sides with the big lie, opposing the January 6th commission, which shouldn't be any surprise. Remember this?
President Trump won this election, so everyone who's listening, do not be quiet. Do not be silent about this. We cannot allow this to happen before our very eyes.
I mean, there's got to be like 2 or 3 Kevin McCarthys, right? Like whatever the clone didn't get the right update or something. One of them's like a Kevin McCarthy 10, the other one's like an 8. Well, there was an X or whatever, that would be a 10. But one of them didn't get the update, so it keeps repeating one thing, and then the other one keeps repeating the other thing, and then the other one keeps repeating the other thing. But regardless, there it is. The big lie. The big lie that spawned the insurrection that Kevin McCarthy is trying to sweep under the rug tonight. Trying to whitewash what we all saw with our own eyes. You saw it, and you heard it with your own ears. How many times do I have to say it? You know it's true. And they know it's true. They know. know it's true. Republicans know it's true. Yet they keep throwing more lies at the wall. They're hoping it'll stick. Remember like Grandma used to do with the spaghetti? Is pasta ready? Throw it against the wall. Let's see if it sticks. You know, the rioters, they were just like tourists. Oh, no, they were Antifa. No, they were, they were Black Lives Matter. Okay, look, you saw that video. Did you see any black people? Did you see, you know. Black lives matter, white lives matter too. Those are all lies. Remember what one of the American heroes who fought back the rioters, Officer Harry Dunn, told me? Some Republican lawmakers and even the former president, they're trying to rewrite history, saying that the riots, that they weren't that bad and that the rioters were actually Antifa. I know you have said that this isn't political for you, but how do you respond to them twisting the truth like that?
It's hurtful. It's hurtful, and it's kind of like a slap in the face without even asking us or talking to us about what we went through.
And then Officer Michael Fanone, who was dragged down the Capitol steps by the mob, tased with his own weapon.
I'm not a politician. I'm not an elected official. I don't expect anybody to give two shits about my opinions. But I will say this, you know, those are lies. And peddling that bullshit is an assault on every officer that fought to defend the Capitol. It's disgraceful.
Even a friend of QAnon Congresswoman, Jewish space laser Marjorie Taylor Greene, a friend who was there on January 6th, said it wasn't Antifa or Black Lives Matter, that it was Trump supporters.
We were all there. It was not Antifa and it was not BLM. It was Trump supporters that did that yesterday. I'm the first to admit it. Being one myself.
Like I said, white lies, L-I-E-S, not lies. I said white lies matter. So the truth is, it was Trump supporters who rioted at the Capitol. But like I said, Republicans just can't handle the truth. Mitch McConnell, who said this after he voted to acquit the former president who incited the insurrection. So yeah, hypocrisy much.
There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it. The people who stormed this building believed they were acting on the wishes and instructions of their president. And having that belief was a foreseeable consequence of the growing crescendo of false statements, conspiracy theories, and reckless hyperbole, which the defeated president kept shouting into the largest megaphone on planet Earth.
I mean, that was then. But days later, he was all sure I'd support him.
If the president was the party's nominee, would you support him?
The nominee of the party? Absolutely.
Okay. Now he and McCarthy are both being threatened tonight by their boss, as Chris calls him, the fraud father. I wish I'd come up with that one. That's a good one, Chris. But there are a handful of Republicans willing to stand up for the truth. A handful. Lisa Murkowski says Trump should testify.
Do you think former President Trump should talk to this commission to detail what was happening on that day?
If you put together a commission that is focused on the events of January 6th, I think he's obviously a very key individual.
Adam Kinzinger says he'll vote for the January 6th commission, not to mention Liz Cheney, who got thrown under the bus for taking a stand for the truth. And meanwhile, in Arizona, the audit that has been a three-ring circus from the beginning, it's been more than 3 rings, including searching for bamboo in some of the ballots on the conspiracy theory that ballots were being flown in from Asia. That's why I said more than 3-ring circus, if there's such a thing. That audit reached new depths of ridiculous tonight. After claiming that a key database had been deleted from Maricopa County's election servers, a claim trumpeted by the former president, auditors basically said, never mind.
Do you still need to get that database from the county, or did that rebuilding or recovery that you did, does that have the information you currently need for that database?
I have the information I need from the recovery efforts of the data.
I'm going to talk to the head of the county's election department later in this show. That is happening as the President of the United States, Joe Biden, is pushing ahead with his agenda and trying to make a deal with Republicans.
We believe we can find a bipartisan deal on infrastructure. But we made one thing clear. We'll compromise, but doing nothing is not an option. Doing nothing is not an option.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg met with Republicans today to talk infrastructure. He weighs in later in the show. But how do you hammer out a deal? Seriously, how do you hammer out a deal with a party that is pushing the big lie in Arizona and trying to whitewash the insurrection on Capitol Hill? How do you do that? How do you do it? Because that's the GOP today. Own it, all of you. We also have some breaking news tonight that I know you want to hear about. New York State's investigation of Trump, the Trump Organization. We're going to tell you what it all means for the former president. Lots more next.
We have some members of Congress who are basically saying that what happened, what we all experienced, what we saw didn't really happen. I mean, enough.
So the House votes tomorrow on creating an independent commission to investigate the deadly Capitol riot. But the GOP leader, Kevin McCarthy, is trying to derail it, saying today that he's opposed to the bipartisan commission. And the number 2 GOP official in the House, Congressman Steve Scalise, going along with McCarthy and urging fellow Republicans to vote against it. There's a lot to discuss with CNN's senior commentator John Kasich, the former Republican governor of Ohio. Good evening, sir. So let's get into it.
I'm very disappointed, Don. Don, I'm very, very
disappointed.
Good
evening. How are you?
You had your inaugural show, and I wasn't good enough to make it. This is going to be tough to recover from this.
You'll be all right.
Just want you to know.
That's what my mom said. You'll be all right. Thank you. It's good to see you. Let's talk about what's going on, because this flip-flopping by Kevin McCarthy on this commission. This is what our Jamie Gangel is reporting, that sources close to this situation are telling her that he's too scared. He's worried that he could hurt his chances of becoming speaker. And number 2, the number 2 Republican, Steve Scalise, who first says, vote your conscience, and now is saying, no, wait, vote against it. Is this a panic about this commission? What is it? Can you help explain?
I think Jamie did good reporting there. I mean, sources tell me that he's worried that he would be called to testify, and then he would have to say what his conversation with Donald Trump was about. And he's probably worried that he will erase those goodwill trips, or trip that he took down to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. But look, Don, they've been investigating things forever. I mean, 9/11. I remember when, the Marines barracks were blown up in Lebanon. We did an investigation. Iran-Contra, there was investigation. I mean, this is just normal to take a look at after action, figure out what happened. This should just be a unanimous vote to check it out, to look into it. It's a bipartisan group. It's got equal numbers on both sides, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Okay, all right, and I think this is a very fair question then, because of what's happening. So, John, it appears that the official position of the GOP is that members can't defend democracy or have a vote of conscience. They have to do what the leadership tells them, or the person who's sitting down at a golf club doing wedding shout-outs.
Well, they're not going to get Liz Cheney's vote, and they're not getting Kinzinger's vote. And I've been saying all along, at some point the dam breaks. And, these are people who go back to their districts. They're important people back there, and then they go down there and think that they have to take orders from somebody. This has been a big change in the Congress since I left, which is the leadership sort of tells you what you're going to do. You know how long I would last down there, Don? You and I together? I mean, it wouldn't work. Because I never took any orders. I never took any orders from you. I was never asked to take any orders. If somebody would have told me to take an order, what do you think I would have told them?
I know.
So this is so foreign to me. It's foreign to me.
See, the difference between us is that you would go. I wouldn't even get on the plane. I'd be like, hey, John, have fun. Honestly, would it have been better to let the commission play out and at least have some input? Of
course.
Because if it goes nowhere, Democrats will investigate and Speaker Pelosi will be calling the shots.
Don, this is one of those things we're always going to remember where we were on January 6th. I remember
right.
exactly where I was, who I was with, and how I watched it on my friend's phone. And I called my wife. I mean, this was one of the attacks on a precious institution of the United States government.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And we all remember where we were. And they want to check it out. They want to investigate it and learn from it. And they're saying that you should vote no? I mean, no for what reason?
Yeah.
I mean, the reasons are all silly. And the Republicans were all lined up, and we're going to have to watch that vote. I'm anxious to see how that vote turns out. I'm anxious to see how Republicans in the state of Ohio are going to vote on that. Because we're watching.
Well, you're right.
Watching. You may have your day today, but you won't have it tomorrow, perhaps. Just watch.
We were all sitting around. We were preparing for the certification of the election. Remember, everyone was on standby. Yeah. It was a big political day and night in America. And I just remember watching my colleagues on television earlier saying, here it is. This is what we've been saying could happen if you continue to lie to people. The GOP rep John Katko, who cut the deal at Kevin McCarthy's behest, got McCarthy nearly everything that he wanted, an even number of Democrats and Republicans on this commission, a sign-off from both sides for subpoenas. So what is up with McCarthy? Is he trying to cover up his own involvement in spreading the lie and his phone call with Trump? Is he afraid of testifying? Like, you know, I know I'm asking you a lot of questions. You don't have a crystal ball. You can't read minds, but maybe you have some insight into what's happening now on Capitol Hill.
Well, I think Jamie hit on it. That what McCarthy's afraid of with this thing is that they will ask him to talk about his private conversation with Trump, and then he's going to have to face up to the facts that the things that he said right after January 6th, and then kind of changing his story and all that. And so I think that's what's behind it, Don. But I want to go back to just one thing about January 6th. And I still have that image in my mind about them breaking into the Capitol through that window. And there's actually some members of the Congress that have said, oh, it was just a normal tourist visit. I guess they think that if they keep saying it never happened, it wasn't so. But the problem is it did happen. And we know it. And it injured our country. And frankly, Don, I'm pleased to say that there are some Republicans that are not going to go along with this nonsense, and we're going to watch for the vote tomorrow.
Let me ask you this. So if Republicans honestly believe, that this was a normal tourist day, right? That it wasn't a big deal, and that there were hugs and kisses and whatever, and it was all these patriots, then if they really don't think that Trump helped to spark this insurrection, if he led these people there, then why don't they want to investigate it? If they believe that they're innocent of all of this, then why not investigate it so that they can be proven correct?
Don, they don't believe that. They don't believe that the election was stolen. They don't believe any of this nonsense.
Yeah.
And that's what's so stunning, that they would continue to say that this didn't happen and that happened, the other thing happened, when they know. If you were to get them alone and ask them, do you think really that the election was stolen? They would tell you no. If you were to ask them privately, do you realize what happened on January 6th? Wasn't it horrible? They would say yes. And so somehow they've been able to check their conscience at the door. And hopefully tomorrow there won't be that many that will check their conscience at the door, and they'll go in and vote for this commission, and we'll just figure out where this goes. But I believe these people know the reality, and for some reason, that's the hardest thing to understand. For some reason, they're not willing to act on what they know to be the truth. And it's, what a lesson for our kids.
Yeah.
What a lesson for their kids.
John Kasich, look at that. You were the 21st guest on the Don Lemon Tonight Show.
Oh, my God. 20. I mean, oh, well.
I'm joking. I'm making up a number. Thank you, John.
I used to be important. I sweep the streets I used to own, to quote Coldplay. You will someday, too, Don Lemon. Just remember.
You don't even know what I'm saying. That's a whole other thing. Thank you, sir. Mr. Coldplay.
All right.
Republicans doubling down on conspiracy and misinformation. Stunts over substance. What is it doing to our democracy? John Meacham weighs in. He's next. The assault on truth in this country taking another wild turn as GOP leader Kevin McCarthy tries to bring down the January 6th commission before it even gets started. It's just the latest attempt to whitewash the insurrection as some Republicans outright deny the reality of what happened. So joining me now is presidential historian John Meacham, the host of the podcast Fate of Fact. It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining. So it has been a little more than 4 months since the insurrection, the worst attack on our capital this country has ever seen at the hands of Americans, and Republicans and Democrats can't even agree on an investigation into what happened. What does that say about our democracy, John?
That we're at an inflection point, a dangerous one. The Confederate Army never got as far as the insurrectionists did on January 6th. There was talk about disrupting the electoral count in 1861 when Lincoln became president, and they never got that far. They never got that far during the war when Washington was under siege. And yet, what did we see? We saw a Confederate flag being carried through the United States Capitol. Fundamentally, a democracy depends on our dispositions of heart and mind, our capacity to recognize the rule of law, to lose gracefully when, in fact, we do lose, and then stay within the constitutional buoys, the constitutional guardrails, pick your metaphor, and go and fight another day. And what we're seeing now, really for the first time since Reconstruction, in my opinion, is a huge chunk of the enfranchised country opting out of a reality-based world and pursuing their own vision, their own wilderness of mirrors, in a way that is almost entirely about the will to power. It's not about prosperity. It's not about common purpose. It's not about the preservation of democracy. It's about the marshaling and maintenance of an individual party's power and place in a system that they themselves are, in fact, undermining.
Do you see... I'm asking this question because I don't know if I see this on... I see the danger here. And, I mean, a real danger. I don't know if I see the urgency on the part of Democrats. I don't see the fight. Do you believe Democrats realize what they are up against right now, that this isn't just an uglier, dumber version of politics as usual, that this is a really, as you say, an inflection point for our country? If people continue to can't believe and don't know what to believe, or their voting rights are restricted, do you think Democrats know, and are they fighting hard enough to try to preserve the republic?
It's a great question. The Democrats I've talked to do understand it. I think they're in a tactical tension, which is, I think what the administration is trying to do is deliver results in order to have a kind of infrastructure on which to defend democracy against autocracy, which, you know, President Biden talks about autocracy in terms of China and the Russian oligarchs. It's also about Mar-a-Lago. Right? The Republican Party, which is functionally as constituted and run at the moment, has become an autocratic vehicle for a single person. So the party of Eisenhower, Reagan, the Bushes, the Nixon who went to China, you know, whatever you want to say about those folks, and there's a lot to say, they governed in coherent ways that would be recognizable to their Democratic colleagues, uppercase D, in real time. Mm-hmm. This is not that. And I think that I understand that the Democratic Party, broadly put, I think is following the old Napoleonic adage, which is never get in the way of an enemy when they're busy destroying themselves. The problem there, which you put your finger on, is they may destroy themselves, but they could also bring down the Constitution. Exactly. And by the way, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, hell, maybe a year ago, I'm not sure I would have said that. Mm-hmm. But part of living in a democracy, part of using reason, is having the ability to observe facts and shift your opinions if you think the facts support that. It's the entire project of the Enlightenment. It's the entire project of the scientific revolution. And if you want to go at it from the other perspective, God gave humankind brains for a reason. And that brain is supposed to be able to address reality as it presents itself and not make us prisoners of opinions that go unexamined. And I think the central question for us is, will the Constitution itself, which withstood